English teachers, what topic on a write about anything essay made you lose hope in humanity? Former English adjunct here. One time a student wrote about a first date that went horribly wrong, including running over a cat and having it stuck to his truck tires, and then vomiting at dinner. Another one that stands out wasn't a topic, but an assigned research paper. A student maintained that she didn't need sources, because God told her the information. She actually cited God as a personal interview in correct MLA format. Two stand out. First one, the prompt was if you could go back and change one thing from your life, what would it be? A young man wrote about the night his abusive alcoholic dad came home. Apparently from the story, dad came home this way often. The fateful night he wanted to change was the first time he stood up to his dad. Dad came home. Kid defended his mom and dad in a drunken rage left. Dad got into a head-on collision and died. Kid totally blamed himself for his father's death. Second story, the prompt was create a holiday and what the traditions and customs of the holiday were. A student created National Black People Day. I was like, okay, how are you going to celebrate it? She said by killing white people. I was like, what? She said, yeah, once a year we can kill as many white people as we want. I got the counselor involved in both of them. I was teaching a University 101 class. Study habits, how to write essays, time management, how to get by at college for kids who honestly aren't really ready for college. The assignment, one paragraph about something that interests you. One of those essays read, I am interested in blueberry muffin. Like how they round on the top and ripped on the sides. That what I like. I kept that on my fridge for a year. I teach literature at a college and mostly deal with freshmen and sophomores. For our free writing unit, one of the assignments asked the students to write any original story based on your favorite fictional genre. So, one of my students wanted to do horror. I said great. That's also a favorite of mine. Go nuts. Eventually, the assignments are turned in and I'm grading them at home. I get to the kid with the horror story and it's about a serial killer who stalks women. Okay, whatever. Nothing I haven't seen before. But then the story goes into long, excruciating detail about the next victim this killer plans on stalking, raping, murdering, a petite blonde in her early 30s who teaches English. And it just so happens I'm a petite blonde in her early 30s who, well, yeah. I didn't report it or anything since it was a creative exercise. I didn't grade him unfairly, either. But I seriously couldn't look that kid in the eye ever again. Edit, still alive. But holy guys. If you guys like that story, I got a ton more. For example, my students do journals and they write sometimes. I had one of them admit he ran a crack den in his basement. Now that one I reported. A Catholic high school in my hometown asked for students to write about what they would do if there were no laws or lack of morals. This was inspired by the Purge, which had been discussed in ethics class. 12 students were suspended indefinitely, 2 or 3 ended up expelled, the others returned eventually, for what they wrote, ranging from date rape to human trafficking to mass shootings, even though the assignment made it more than obvious that it was a fictional assignment, and by relating it to the Purge pretty much goaded students into matching the level of lawlessness. Made national news. There were articles by psychologists for days. They even mentioned the Reddit Ask a Rapist thread and the psychologist's response to not create a feedback forum. Not a single article even came close to suggesting that if you give 17 to 19-year-olds an opening to go against good taste, that most of them would do so for shits and giggles. 2 students, the date rape one and the mass shooting one, did not find another school and did not graduate, or at least had to redo their last year. In high school, we had a history essay to write about JFK and one of my classmates wrote the entire essay by naming him Jean-Francois Kennedy. Yes, it was in France. My teacher was so astonished by it, he asked her why she didn't wrote the abbreviation JFK instead of guessing the name, and she answered that she actually thought his name was Jean-Francois Kennedy. Who doesn't know his real name is John Fortnite Kennedy? Not a teacher. In high school we got told to write a short horror story. Someone googled short horror story, printed it out and handed it in. He literally just took a screenshot and printed it so you could see the URL and what he was watching on YouTube. Spoiler, he didn't pass. I'm impressed he reached the level of print screen. To this day I see posts where people captured the screen with their phones. It wasn't right about anything, it was more like create a story. My student, 9 years old female, wrote about two best friends. They were at the mall when one of them got kidnapped by a villain, who put her in a suitcase and took her to London. Everyone searched for her and she was found dead. The villain had murdered her. The police arrested and imprisoned him for 10 years and then killed him. The girl's best friend was really sad and killed herself, and then they lived happy ever after. She is 9 and wrote about kidnap, murder, police violence and suicide, and romanticized suicide. We had to write short stories in high school English. My best friend was struggling for inspiration, so me, self-absorbed teenager, told her to write about me when I'm a beautiful successful professional ballerina. She took the idea and ran with it, but took a dark turn and had me raped backstage by the director of the ballet company. She showed it to me proudly before class, and when she saw my face as I read it, started backpedaling hard about how it definitely wasn't about me. She just got inspired. Not an English teacher. Just a mother reading over her 10th grader son's essay 2 weeks ago. He had written something to the effect of, heaps of people have heaps of hobbies. So we had a conversation about using more academic language and employing a wider range of vocabulary. I'd come back 10 minutes later and he'd use the thesaurus function inward, so it now read, piles of people have mounds of hobbies. Just, wow. Here's one I can actually answer. I was teaching an IELTS test prep class to high school aged students in China. One of my students is planning on being a nutritionist, and when I gave her a topic about what she would change if she could be the president for a day, she said that she would imprison everyone who was over a certain BMI until they were thin, and if they were repeat offenders they should spend life in prison for wasting public resources and making healthcare more expensive for everyone else. Not a teacher, but in 3rd grade I moved to a new school. I was in a Montessori before. The new school was a Catholic school. I was a Unitarian Universalist, and we always called our preacher Reverend, not Father. In my new school, the school priest, Father Jim, was retiring and we had to write a short essay about how much we'll miss him. This was like, I dunno, the 3rd day of school? I had no fucking clue what the hell a Father Jim was, and since nobody bothered to write out his full name I assumed this school just had a weird name for the gym. So of course, I wrote an essay about how much I'll miss the gym, and how terrible it's gonna be that I can't run all over it or play football in it anymore, and how terrible it is that the gym is retiring. I ended the essay wishing the gym well with its new tires. The teacher was not amused. Well, it wasn't the topic itself, but a student literally cited The Onion as one of his main sources. That was enough to make me lose hope. Edit for clarification. Since every other comment is asking this, no, they didn't do it as a joke. It was 100% unironic. They literally used The Onion to support their thesis claim and failed the assignment because it destroyed the entire paper's credibility and argument. I think they got a chance to rewrite though. The paper had lots of problems with it aside from the big cup anyway. I've had classmates submit essays copied straight up from Wikipedia, including the blue hyperlinks and all. I had a classmate in high school who once did a presentation where he just read his text off a piece of paper. The presentation included the phrase, "As a historian, I, teacher here," once had a female student submit an assessment that included the phrase "now," as a male journalist. Didn't bother reading the rest. Our English teacher told us that some guy copied an article from the Italian Wikipedia thinking it was in English. I had a college buddy who graduated a couple years back take a writing class, in which they were allowed to write whatever fictional story they desired. For this assignment, he wanted an accredited professor to read erotica. He sat down and wrote 10 pages of porn, detailing the discovery of sex from the perspective of a young, thick, female. He got an A. Edit. Wow. This is a crazy response. I've definitely never had anything like this on any of my comments before. I'll let my buddy know his story is famous. Thank you to whoever gave me Reddit Silver. Now I just have to figure out what it does. Thanks for watching. Please consider liking the video and subscribe if you want more Ask Reddit.